before I jump into my conspiracy, I'm going to ask a quick question. Hopefully, your views will be in line with what I'm about to explain. So, I'm going to ask you guys, because I'm going to talk about two apps in this conspiracy. What two apps would you say have really grown in popularity during the whole quarantine lockdown
I think
situation?
I know the answer. TikTok and Zoom.
Thanks for that, Callum. You nailed that. I'm glad you got that.
Ooh, wow.
Saves my blushes there.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think I'm still just about in touch with the younger folk.
I would have got that horrendously wrong. I was going to say Netflix and Disney Plus.
Disney Plus is a good shout, actually. I'll give you that one.
Alright,
So,
cool.
my conspiracy does build on what Callum said, but it takes it kind of from a different angle. And my conspiracy is that China has used coronavirus as a way to popularize two Chinese social media apps in the Western world, such that it could infiltrate the Western world and spy on us. I'm not really going to go into how China's used coronavirus because we touched on that in previous
They were
episodes. So
expert.
check those out. Exactly, we are experts on this topic, so check those episodes out if you want to get more of a perspective on that. And yeah, as I mentioned, they're using these apps to spy on us in the Western world. So yeah, they're using TikTok and Zoom. I feel sorry for the poor guys who are analyzing the TikToks because I mean they're gonna need a machine 10 times more complex than Alan Turing's Enigma to understand why the hell British teenagers are belting out Savage Gardens truly madly deeply whilst necking a couple of
Yeah.
Stellas in the garden.
I've got to have a high tolerance for cringeworthy content as well.
Oh,
Some of them are awful.
Every day on the news, I mean, they try to post, like, say, a heartwarming story at the end. It's always talking about TikTok and how these people are using it to brighten up their days in lockdown and stuff. It seems weird. It's almost like they're shilling for TikTok as well. So use TikTok, use TikTok.
yeah. So I will start with TikTok. TikTok is a Chinese company. In China alone, it's got 4 billion downloads just in China, which is crazy because there's 1.5 billion people, which means on average, each person's downloaded it 3 times. I don't know whether that's because they're getting new phones or they're deleting it and re-downloading it. I mean, I do it with some apps. I'm sure Callum has mentioned he has a love-hate relationship with Reddit, so he's probably downloaded that a fair few times.
Not quite that, but I have sort of deleted and then installed certain apps sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And in John's case, it's Tinder. So, like other social media apps, TikTok has the ability to extract personal information such as GPS location, browsing history, contacts, and even facial recognition. And this theory argues that instead of using it in a respectful manner by selling it onto advertisers to hound you, like our Western social media apps do, it's going to the Chinese government so they can use it to oppress your freedom and spy.
Well, I've certain controversies about TikTok, but not relating to directly Chinese spying. It's more to the nature of some of the content that's been on there. But I'm definitely interested to hear what this angle is on it, because there's definitely been some very questionable stuff that people have found on TikTok, given how wide its user base is, and certain things will slip through if there even is a net for monitoring, protecting their users.
Yeah, I don't really know who protects the users, whether it's, for example, in America, if there's an American base for that, or whether it's just all down to the Chinese company itself. I don't know how that works. Because obviously there's been these issues with TikTok and explicit material from underage people. And there's also an older fan base on TikTok as well, and they have access to material. So it's been very controversial besides this whole Chinese angle. And as Callum mentioned, Tencent, and its famous Chinese social media app WeChat censors anything bad about China and its history. TikTok does the exact same. Many posts about the Uyghur Muslims, Hong Kong protests, Tiananmen Square, and so on have been removed. And now we have millions and millions of users being influenced by this app, and this app will not have a bad word to say about China. So the difference really between WeChat and TikTok is used massively in the Western world. So now China's having an influence on censorship within the Western world. TikTok eventually does become the #1 social media site, which would not surprise me the way it's risen so fast. It would be brilliant news for China. They would have a social media app dominating the Western world, whereby searches on atrocities by China will have 0 hits. Additionally, the homepage can be manipulated in a way such that any anti-American post can be seen by all. For example, the anti-police and anti-establishment protests in Minneapolis this week could be appearing on the front page, whereas any protests in Hong Kong are not to be seen anywhere. And this way, TikTok can influence its users to have a more pro-Chinese stance.
Got anyone dropping TikTok dances to Firestarter in Minneapolis?
I mean, I don't use TikTok at all, but I'd assume there's some.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there has to be lots of
It's
stuff
also
on the
like the new
protests.
Snapchat now, the way it's going. Just take just video anything, and you can fancy a bit of fancy editing. You've got a hit or a chance for a hit.
There you go, Callum. Become TikTok famous by this time next
But
week.
what's crazy for me is, if I try becoming TikTok famous, how heavily it's marketed to young children, seemingly young children, teenagers.
That's exactly the issue here with the influence they can have. The target audience includes our very own John, but it's obviously massively aimed at younger audiences. The vast majority of people using TikTok are young children. And you might ask two questions here. Firstly, why is John on an app with lots of young children? But
Really?
but second, but secondly, this is an app for young children. Why would China want to know who has a crush on who in French high schools? And you might think it's stupid to target this young audience, but maybe, as we've mentioned, they're looking to manipulate rather than spy. Kids believe almost anything and everything, and kids using TikTok are young. So if they were to see posts, this could influence their beliefs such that they take a more pro-Chinese stance and more anti-Western stance. For example, I believe God was a hippo for 4 years because my cousin told me.
What?
And John actually believed WWE was real until he was 19.
A little bit younger, but the point
I suppose it's just capturing the naivety of these children. Think they see their friends getting popular, think, "Oh, I want some of this." That's how much social media and influencers just have a hold of the younger generation. I speak like a proper oldie now, but it is mad how everyone wants to be internet famous. Like the YouTuber regularly tops the most desired jobs of children in primary schools and secondary schools.
It's just a chilled lifestyle, isn't it? You get loads of money, and realistically, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of editing and work that goes into it, but it's fun to do. So
it just seems so simple now. And it's just directly short attention span videos, scroll through, keep popping up. Anything can be shoved into your recommended feed.
I mean, my younger sister is 15 and she's obsessed with TikTok, and she doesn't care about school. And you tell her school's important, you need grades, and she says, "Oh, I'll just become TikTok famous, so it doesn't matter."
I mean, they're just taking it in without thinking it. So as you're saying, China could sort of slowly manipulate people's thoughts just because they maybe subconsciously see some anti-American propaganda, won't even think anything of it.
Yeah, and I mean, the people who are using the app are definitely the easiest people to influence just because of their age and what they know at that stage of life. So if China could target these kids with pro-Chinese propaganda, the world would be China's oyster. And with the new security law looking to increase censorship in Hong Kong, we're seeing these apps potentially giving China a foot to censor the whole world as well.
I say one more thing about TikTok. I remember it was big a couple of years ago and just completely fizzled out. So I don't know what happened then. I've suddenly seen this massive revival. Like it's come arguably so much bigger than it was when it hit its peak popularity a couple of years ago, and that was big.
This is, I guess, the thing with this theory is that TikTok has been around for years. I just think, obviously, in lockdown and quarantine, more people are going to be on their phones, but it's like the Reddit one, very odd timing how big it's become during this whole coronavirus scare.
It's got to put issues that everyone's using. It's nurses and in their scrubs doing TikTok videos and stuff in the peak of the pandemic.
Yeah. So there we go. TikTok could be influencing young children across the world and giving China access to target these kids with their propaganda. But arguably more worryingly would be Zoom. Although Zoom is an American company set up in Silicon Valley, it is owned by Chinese-born and Chinese-educated Eric Yuan. Additionally, Zoom's development team mainly operates in China. Now, Zoom is a company that has also been around for years, but personally not one that I'd heard till very recently, until the lockdown started. It shot to fame during the lockdown, and the worrying thing this theory says about Zoom is that it's now used in a large majority of business meetings across the world. The main alternative is Microsoft Teams, and you know what that means, guys? That means either China or Bill Gates is listening to all the world's business.
Trying to secretly vaccinate us over the internet.
The two biggest villains in the world, China and Bill Gates, are battling
it out. Zoom's also been used for some schools as well. I've seen like Zoom teaching and lessons. You can have more people than Teams.
Given that this theory is going to touch on the fact that these meetings are being given back to China, is also very worrying that the British government had cabinet meetings on Zoom too. I mean, spying on worldwide business meetings it's a dream come true for a government.
Maybe private companies, but not surely the government would know better and have their own system.
As I mentioned, the alternative is Microsoft Teams. Microsoft does have one upper hand on Zoom, and like TikTok, where they're having to cipher through all these videos of kids doing stupid dances, Zoom is having to listen through numerous homework quizzes. Something that Callum himself is a huge advocate for.
Yes, I'm not that bored in lockdown yet.
And just to explain a bit more why people believe Zoom is a issue, the University of Toronto found that Zoom meetings were encrypted using an algorithm with serious well-known weaknesses, and also used keys issued by servers in China. even when meeting participants are all in North America. Whether this is very fishy or just down to cheaper labor and infrastructure costs in China is an argument that I'll hand over to you guys. What do you think?
I'm not saying I'm lapping this up, but it is basically touching on all the issues I've had with TikTok and then to an extent Zoom as well. I remember being very skeptical of it when I learned that it was, obviously, had these links to China. I remember it being highlighted in the news. It wasn't very good with its privacy settings. It was quite lax on security. And then you've mentioned these algorithms and how it could either be easily unencrypted or it's just encrypted its way. It's going straight to China anyway. So you mentioned that most of their infrastructure is based over there.
Another thing I will mention about Zoom is, up until a few months ago, if you wanted to talk to your friends, you'd be like, oh yeah, do you want a video call? Do you want to have a group call? But now all of a sudden everyone's just saying, do you want to Zoom? It's really come out of nowhere.
Skype was the first video call thing that was really taken off. And so Facebook Messenger offers it, WhatsApp offers it. Facebook's had its own history of really poor privacy and security in the past. I think people might be slightly over that.
I guess that's where this theory falls down for both TikTok and Zoom is that, all other social media apps are very, very similar. They're just not based in China. And Zoom's not even actually based in China. It's just set up by a Chinese educated and Chinese.
It's a bit of a sad reality. No matter what platform you use, your data is going to be stored somewhere, and there's a potential for people to either hack into that system or just to be looking through it anyway. So whether it's cyber attack by a foreign government or something, not sure what they particularly gain from multiple pub quizzes and, I don't know, film group viewings, but I'm just interested in there to inform their next way to target the youth with their propaganda. I don't know, but there's definitely cause for concern. Even in the TikTok, when you had how young the user base is and how widely spread it's becoming.
Exactly, yeah. I guess with the TikTok influence thing, I guess you could argue YouTube was the same, and obviously that was American, but yeah, it's switching hands to the Chinese now for the influence.
And it's just like, as these things get bigger and bigger from, say, moral standpoint, but it just becomes harder and harder to moderate every single thing that's getting posted. So people could be getting, like Chinese spying aside, people could be getting exposed to all sorts of things they really shouldn't be seeing, all sorts of illegal activity, explicit material, especially with the underage user base. It doesn't sit right.
Right, thanks for that. Do you want to give your rating?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to say it's a really good conspiracy. Very topical. Just follow on nicely from mine as well. Nice little theme running through this podcast so far, given the lockdown situation and the Chinese influence, which we do seem to be going on quite a lot with our podcast. Bit of a theme. President Xi, it's nothing nothing personal. Not sure what's three UK-based, I don't know, what we call just three guys can do against the massive Chinese government. But you never know, starting a little revolution here in our homes. But say anything to do with China is always prime conspiracy material because there is so much going on with this, the amount of censorship and spying and everything. And now they have potentially got access to the most, malleable in terms of they haven't formed their worldviews and opinions yet. They should be easily influenced. They've managed to get that in the form of brightly coloured, easy to digest videos of people dancing and stuff. How easily they can manipulate algorithms to show them what they want them to see. Oh, it's going to be a solid, I think I'll give it an 8 on this one. And say believability again is another high one, just because we know that China is very much fond of being in control of its citizens and also trying to extend its reach beyond its borders. And with TikTok and Zoom, it seems like the perfect opportunity, given how it is spread through the youth like wildfire. Even, say, adults and people you wouldn't expect to be using TikTok are filming themselves doing dances with their children and all sorts. Like, anything that can be videoed is getting videoed on TikTok. It's ridiculous. I would say it's another high believability. It's another 7 for me on believability, just because they've got the motive and they've got the means which to harvest the data.
Thanks for that, John.
Yeah, I think it's really a conspiracy as usual. I like the fact that there's a link between the emergence of TikTok and Zoom as well as coronavirus, and that both allegedly at least stemmed from China. So you never know, there may or may not be a link there. I think as well with Zoom and the problems you mentioned, like security issues, the company I work for has banned us from using Zoom for any company meetings because of those security issues. So I don't know whether they're paranoid about being spied on or hacked into or whatever, but yeah, we're not allowed to use it.
Certainly interesting, that.
Yeah, exactly.
Sound move.
It's a weird one. Yeah, sounds sensible. I think it's because I sent my draft of this podcast.
Get this in your email to the CEO. Love it. He'll be very justified his decision.
Companies all across the world will be switching off Zoom once they hear this.
So for any of our investor friends, sell your Zoom shares now once this podcast drops.
So yeah, in terms of the experience as a whole, I'll give it a 7.5. I think it's really good. In terms of believability, I think the Zoom part of it, I find pretty believable. Really, that there's known security issues and that it has really very much come out of nowhere, and we're almost being pushed to use Zoom rather than the traditional means. But despite the fact it's a lot more of a hassle because you have to use like a computer, I think, rather than just do it on Facebook Messenger, which people have already got set up. So I think all the Zoom stuff is quite believable. I think got a few more issues maybe with the idea of them using TikTok.
John is
Point
a
I
big
would say,
TikTok fan.
yeah, exactly. Coming to the defense. But the first point I would say is TikTok doesn't have a homepage. You just get recommended videos based on what you've already watched. So it wouldn't be a sense of things could come up on a homepage. I suppose you could make a case that pro-China videos or whatever
I'm sure they could
be
manipulate the
recommended
tags
to
in the
you.
algorithm.
Yeah, but you'd think they wouldn't go that far in terms of likes and stuff. So, but they could always use bots to increase the amount of people who see it. I think they wouldn't use TikTok to kind of push agendas as such. You may have more of a case that they'd use it for spying, or is literally a case of you're setting up a camera in your house and filming yourself. There's already, as well, thought I'd mention, there's already proof that TikTok and presumably its owners are having influence on Western culture, because there are some songs that have been made famous only by appearing in TikTok, songs that no one had ever heard of. So one of them is Deathbed,
Hit or miss.
Coffee for Your Head. Yeah, that as well. So there's about 5 or 6 songs that no one had ever heard of and have been featured in TikToks and are now kind of have been in the top 10 in the UK charts. So I don't know whether maybe they'll be, I don't know, clutching at straws a bit here, but maybe they'll start encouraging people to make TikToks using Chinese music to get it big over here. I really don't know,
but I think now artists may actually be into trying to write their next TikTok hit song rather than writing a hit single, just something that's got that little 10-second hook.
Well, exactly. You just need a little catchy portion.
And it all boils down to money in the end anyway, so I think the amount of plays you'll get, streams, etc. So, yeah.
So, yeah, for believability, I think I'll go for a 6 on believability. Not ruling it out, but need a little bit more.
I'd just say one more thing before Luke gives his rating. I didn't really take into account much on Zoom there, but you think with them got the potential to monitor business meetings, well, you would hope that your more important meetings wouldn't be conducted on Zoom. They'd conducted these other means using more secure means. Things they've got access to potential companies planning their next moves, investments and stuff. They could make masses of money if you've got to be able to harvest all this data and actually interpret it in enough time. So you can definitely see why China, if they were to be taking this or going down this avenue, would want to basically have a little inside eye on every big meeting that's going on across companies.
Yeah, I guess it's very Enigma-like in that way, is that a company's next move, but you can't make it obvious, but you need to do something so you can be a step ahead of them. So I guess that would suggest that these Chinese companies are going to come to the forefront. Yeah, I will say when I was researching this, I found it interesting, as I always do, but the fact that there was 2 kind of social media apps that had links to China that had become massive during coronavirus and lockdown really intrigued me even more. And I mean, reading into it, it certainly became more believable. For that reason, I'm going to give it like a 6.5 as a conspiracy. For believability, I think it's quite believable. I'm going to say it's probably on the same level as the Reddit one, so I'm going to go for a 7.5 out of 10 on believability.